She was 15. Sweet, soft-spoken, musical. The kind of girl who smiled at her dad over breakfast. But just hours later, her father was dead, and the police were asking, did Ellie Friar just witness a murder or did she plan it? This is the story of a small Oregon town, a family ripped apart, and the shocking question that still haunts everyone who knew them. Was Ellie the victim or the mastermind? October 2nd, 2017, Medford, Oregon. It began like any ordinary Monday. The skies were still dark, the streets mostly quiet. School buses hadn't started their routes, but at 5:32 am, a 911 call shattered the silence. On the line, Maggie Friar, a mother gripped by panic. I don't know where my ex-husband or my daughter is. Something happened at the house. Her voice trembled. Her words stumbled over each other. She was terrified. Something was wrong and she knew it. She just couldn't say what exactly. Maggie hadn't been able to reach her 15-year-old daughter, Ellie Friar, or her ex-husband, Aaron Friar. They were supposed to be at Aaron's small 2-bedroom house just across town. But no one was picking up, and Maggie couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had happened. When police arrived at Aaron's residence, the front door was closed but not locked. Inside, chaos. Blood, smeared on the walls, dripped across the floor. A broken glass table lay shattered in the middle of the living room. Furniture knocked over. One of the couch cushions looked as if it had been violently tossed. And then the trail. Spots of blood that led out the front door, through the dirt driveway, and vanished near the edge of the carport. No signs of Aaron, no signs of Ellie, and no car. A neighbor's security camera caught it pulling out of the driveway around 5:30 a.m., just minutes before Maggie's call. What officers couldn't figure out yet was whether Aaron Friar had driven away or been taken. And as for Ellie, was she a kidnapped teen or something much, much darker? To understand what happened that October morning, you need to understand the family at the heart of it. Aaron Friar was a father of 3, a drummer, a handyman, and by most accounts a man who loved being a dad. He shared custody with his ex-wife, Maggie Friar, after their marriage ended in 2016. The divorce wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was a fracture that sent emotional aftershocks rippling through the lives of their 3 daughters. There was Ellie, the oldest, just 15 years old, quiet, creative, talented. She played the guitar, the keyboard, even the drums just like her dad. She had an introspective air, the kind of girl who journaled late at night and listened to indie music no one else had heard of. Then came Sierra, the middle child, 11 at the time. And finally, the youngest, just a little girl who still needed bedtime stories and cuddles. The sisters were tight. Sierra once said, "I liked being in the middle. I got to be an older sister and a younger sister at the same time. We were a team." After the divorce, Ellie started splitting time between both homes. Weekdays with mom, weekends with dad. But things weren't exactly smooth. According to Maggie, the split hit the kids hard, especially Ellie. Teenage years are tricky enough, and Ellie was navigating them while switching homes, losing routines, and watching her family fall apart. Still, from the outside, it seemed like Ellie was holding it together. She still got good grades. She played music. She had friends. And she adored her younger sisters. But behind closed doors, subtle shifts began to happen. She became more withdrawn. She started sneaking around. And then she met Gavin MacFarlane. He was 19, she was 15, and her father, Aaron, made his feelings crystal clear. Absolutely not. He banned Ellie from seeing Gavin, took her phone, grounded her. Typical parenting? Maybe. But to Ellie, it felt like war. And that war was just beginning. Because somewhere along the way, this teenage rebellion turned into something far more dangerous. By the time the sun crept above the hills of Medford, Oregon, the Friar family's nightmare had begun to unfold. Inside Aaron Friar's small two-bedroom house, the scene was frozen in chaos. Blood smeared across the living room, shattered glass on the floor, furniture overturned. But more chilling than the scene was the silence, because two people were missing. Aaron Friar, father of three, and Ellie Friar, his 15-year-old daughter, both gone. A trail of blood led from the living room out the front door and vanished into the dirt driveway. The trail stopped cold near the carport. The car missing. Aaron's phone left behind. Ellie's still inside. But just down the street, a neighbor's security camera captured a blurry figure getting into that car around 5:33 am. That was just moments after Maggie Friar's 911 call. The timing couldn't be ignored. But what did the video mean? Was Aaron alive and driving himself somewhere for help? Or had someone else taken the wheel with him in the trunk? Even more puzzling, where was Ellie? Had she been kidnapped? Was she running? Or was she already involved? Police didn't know. No one did. All they had were questions and blood. By mid-morning, the search had escalated to an all-hands effort. More than 70 officers, detectives, and forensics techs were mobilized. They canvassed the streets, checked hospitals, pulled surveillance from every block, because whatever happened inside that house, it hadn't ended there, and somewhere out there on foot, in a car, or hiding in plain sight, someone knew exactly where Aaron and Ellie were. While detectives searched the streets, one witness had already lived through part of the horror. She was 11 years old. Sierra Friar, Ellie's younger sister, had been inside the house the night her father vanished. That morning, she wasn't woken up by an alarm clock. She was woken up by a sound she'd never forget. It was pitch black. I remember a dinging noise, over and over and over again. Then glass shattering, a crash, and voices. One of them was her father. Sierra heard him yell a curse word. She heard things being dragged, furniture moving, and then complete silence. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She stayed in bed, frozen with fear. For hours, she lay there, paralyzed, listening, waiting, until she was sure the danger was gone. When she finally stepped out of the bedroom, the house was unrecognizable. The broken glass, the blood, the eerie quiet. Her father, gone. Her sister, gone. But Sierra saw something else too. From her bedroom window, she had watched two figures pacing outside the house. One was a stranger. The other she knew instantly. Gavin MacFarlane, Ellie's boyfriend. The one her dad had forbidden. The one Aaron believed was too old, too controlling, too dangerous. Sierra called him Ellie's big love. But their parents, they thought he was a threat. And now, there he was outside their house just moments after her dad disappeared. For detectives, this was the break they'd been waiting for. A name, a face, a connection. And for Sierra, it was the last morning she'd ever wake up in that house as a child. In quiet towns like Medford, Oregon, love stories usually don't make the news. But this one, it had warning signs from the start. Ellie Friar, just 15 years old, had fallen for Gavin MacFarlane, a 19-year-old who seemed charming, soft-spoken, and 4 years older. To Ellie, he was everything. To her parents, he was a red flag. They did what any concerned parents would do. They told her the relationship had to stop, took her phone, set strict rules, kept them apart. But Ellie didn't let go. She found ways to keep talking to Gavin. Late night messages, secret plans, little lies that slowly turned into something darker. And every time she bent the rules, the tension at home got worse. Aaron Friar, Ellie's father, had put his foot down. He warned Gavin to stay away firmly and clearly. According to Gavin, it even escalated to a confrontation at his door. Then came the twist. Gavin told investigators that Ellie had shared big news. She thought she might be pregnant, a 15-year-old with a 19-year-old. Suddenly, everything changed. Whether it was true or not didn't matter in the moment. If Gavin believed it, and Ellie knew how to use it, it could become a powerful motivator, a reason to act, a way to convince someone to do something they never thought they were capable of, something that would change all of their lives forever. By mid-morning on October 2nd, the case had gone from disturbing to urgent. Medford police had 2 people missing, a blood-soaked crime scene, and a car that vanished into the early morning dark. With every hour that passed, the odds of finding Aaron Friar alive were slipping. And no one knew where Ellie Friar was. Not her friends, not her mother, not her phone. It was like she had vanished into thin air. But police weren't sitting still. They launched a full-scale response, every available officer, every unit, every lead. We had 70 to 75 people out on the streets, said Detective Bill Ford. They retraced every step, reviewed hours of security footage, scanned gas stations, alleyways, rural roads. Then a break. Aaron's car was located, parked in an out-of-the-way area not far from East Medford. It looked ordinary until officers got closer. There was red staining near the rear bumper, marks running downward. When they opened the trunk, what they found confirmed their worst fears. The interior was heavily stained, the carpet soaked through. But Aaron wasn't inside, and neither was Ellie. The car was still warm, recently parked, meaning whoever had driven it was still out there close. So the search shifted. This wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was a race against time. Officers set up a perimeter. Undercover cars circled the area. Everyone had one goal: find Ellie, find Aaron, and figure out what really happened that night. And just a few hours later, they found them. Sort of. After all the searching, the 911 call, the crime scene, the panic, police didn't find Ellie Friar hiding in the woods. They didn't find her in a basement or a car trunk. They found her walking down the street, calm, casual, next to her boyfriend Gavin MacFarlane. It was early afternoon. They were in East Medford, just a few miles from the house, walking side by side on a busy road. No one was running. No one looked hurt. No one acted like they had just lived through something traumatic. Detectives couldn't believe it. "They're just walking down the sidewalk," said Detective Bill Ford, in plain sight. Officers approached quickly and quietly. They didn't want to cause a scene. Ellie didn't resist. Neither did Gavin. And then came the surprise twist. There was a third person with them, a young man named Russell Jones. He wasn't on anyone's radar until now. Officers asked for ID. Russell didn't have any, but his name would soon become just as important as Ellie's and Gavin's. Police took all 3 into custody, separating them immediately. Ellie, Gavin, Russell. 3 teenagers, 2 of them adults, linked to a missing father, a stained vehicle, and a house covered in red. And yet, Ellie acted like she had no idea what was going on. During questioning, she told detectives, "I haven't been home, and now I'm really concerned about what's been going on." She claimed she'd gone for a long walk, that she had just happened to run into Gavin and Russell by chance, that maybe her dad had left the house looking for her. But investigators weren't buying it, because Ellie's story wasn't adding up. The blood, the missing car, the timeline, it all pointed to something deeper. And while Ellie played innocent, one of the other two was about to talk. With all three teens now in custody, Ellie Friar, Gavin MacFarlane, and Russell Jones police had a critical decision to make. Who to question first? They chose Ellie. She was just 15, no lawyer, no parent in the room, just a teenage girl sitting across from a detective in the middle of a nightmare. And right away, Ellie claimed total confusion. "I haven't been home," she said. "Now I'm really concerned about what's been going on." She said she'd left the house for a walk, that she ran into Gavin and Russell by coincidence. She hadn't seen her dad, didn't know where he was. To the officers, it sounded rehearsed, too calm, too vague, and far too convenient. Detective Stephanie Jackson pressed gently. "Everybody's really concerned because we actually don't know where your dad is right now." Ellie's response: "That's really disturbing to hear. Maybe he was looking for me." But the more she talked, the more things unraveled. She had no explanation for the blood in the house, no reason why her phone and her dad's had both been left behind, no timeline for when or how she'd met up with Gavin and Russell. Detectives weren't just listening to what Ellie was saying, they were watching how she said it. Calm voice, minimal emotion, almost like she was waiting for the right moment to say what she really knew. And while Ellie stuck to her story, police made a strategic move. They let Gavin sit in a holding cell a bit longer. Then they turned their attention to Russell Jones, because if anyone was going to crack first, it was him. While Ellie was still sitting calmly in the interview room, police shifted their focus to the one person who couldn't stop talking: Russell Jones. At just 22, Russell had already raised red flags. He wasn't supposed to be at the Friar house. He had no ties to Aaron. Yet Sierra Friar, Ellie's little sister, had seen him outside their home the morning her father disappeared. And now he was acting strange, not hostile, not scared, just chatty. "Yeah, I have nothing to hide," he said. "I just talk better when I have a cigarette." Detective Bill Ford took him up on the offer. They stepped outside, away from cameras and away from the walls. Just two guys talking over a cigarette. Classic cop move. What happened next would change the case forever. In casual conversation, Russell admitted he had been at the Friar home that morning with Gavin. But it wasn't an attack, he claimed. They were helping Ellie leave a bad situation. He said Aaron wasn't a good person, that they weren't there to hurt anyone. They were just trying to get Ellie out. But Ford had been down this road before. He pushed back. "Look, Russell, we're pulling video from every house, every alley, every direction you could have gone. So if this isn't the truth, you need to be honest with me right now." Russell paused, then looked Detective Ford in the eyes and said, "95% of it is the truth, and 5% is a lie." And that's when Ford knew. Russell wasn't just a witness, he was involved. Then came the moment no one expected. "Can you take us to Aaron?" Ford asked. Russell didn't hesitate. "Yeah," he said, "I'll take you to him." Just like that. No lawyer, no delay, no resistance. They handcuffed him, sat him in the back of an unmarked vehicle, and hit the road. He gave turn by turn directions like he was guiding them to a restaurant. Left here, up the hill, past the tree line, until finally, after a quiet ride into the wilderness, Russell said, "Stop right here." And what they found next would confirm their worst fears. The road twisted into the foothills about 20 miles outside Medford. Thick trees, no houses, no cell signal, just quiet and a deep sense of dread. Detective Bill Ford sat in the car, watching Russell Jones guide them through the turns. Then suddenly, "Stop right here," Russell said. They pulled over near a steep ravine, the kind of place you'd never notice unless you were looking for it. "Right where that big rock is," Russell added. "That's where we backed up the car." Ford stepped out first, and then he saw it. A green tarp, partially covered in dirt, weighed down by sticks, blending into the woods like it was meant to disappear. He called for backup. Officers moved in slowly, carefully. They pulled back the corners, and underneath was the body of Aaron Friar. 6 hours after the initial 911 call, the search for Aaron had ended. He had been wrapped in that tarp, left in the woods like a secret someone hoped would never be found. The reality hit hard. This wasn't just a missing person case. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional. And the three young people they had in custody, Ellie, Gavin, and Russell, weren't just connected to it. They were now the prime suspects. Back at Medford Police Headquarters, the energy had shifted. Aaron Friar had been found. And now it wasn't just about what happened, but who made it happen. Because all three suspects, Ellie Friar, Gavin MacFarlane, and Russell Jones, were telling different stories. And each one pointed the finger at someone else. Russell Jones had already led detectives to Aaron's location, but he insisted, "I didn't hurt him. That was Gavin. I just helped after." He claimed Gavin was the one who attacked Aaron, and he only got involved to help Ellie escape a toxic situation. But he also admitted he wasn't being fully honest. 95% of it is true, he told Detective Ford. 5% is a lie. Which 5%? That's what investigators had to figure out. Ellie, meanwhile, was still insisting she didn't know anything. She claimed she had left the house for a walk, ran into Gavin and Russell by chance. She said she didn't know where her dad was, that she had nothing to do with what happened. But when asked about the blood in the house, her response was, "I don't know." Detectives weren't buying it. They'd already found notes, detailed planning documents at Gavin's home, and some of those notes were in Ellie's handwriting. One of the messages she had sent Gavin read, "We need to make sure he's gone before we leave the house." Another, "You can do it in under a minute, right?" Still, she denied everything until the pressure cracked her story. Later in the interview, she quietly admitted she had handed Gavin the object used in the attack, and before he entered the room, she whispered to him, "I'm ready when you are." Then came Gavin, and his version changed everything. After hours of silence, Gavin MacFarlane finally spoke, and what he revealed left investigators stunned. He admitted everything. Not all at once, but piece by piece. And each piece made things darker. At first, Gavin tried to paint Aaron Friar as a dangerous man. He said Aaron had threatened him, told him to stay away from Ellie, that he was scared not just for himself, but for Ellie too. He claimed he was trying to protect her, and that the situation had spiraled. Then came the big reveal. Gavin told detectives that Ellie believed she was pregnant. "She told me 2 weeks ago," he said. "I was just trying to protect her and my possible child." Whether it was true or not didn't matter in that moment, because Gavin believed it, and that belief became his fuel. He described what happened inside the house. Aaron was asleep on the couch. It was early, barely dawn. Gavin crept in, holding a metal baseball bat. I acted on instinct, he said. I just snapped. He struck Aaron several times. 5, maybe 6. Hard, fast, no warning. He said he couldn't even see clearly in the dark, but he kept swinging. Then he and Russell wrapped Aaron in a tarp, loaded him into the car, and drove into the woods. They hid the body beneath branches and dirt, parked the car, and tried to act like nothing had happened. That's how officers found them, just walking down the street, calm as ever. But here's the twist. Gavin told detectives he didn't want to go through with it. He claimed Ellie pressured him, that she encouraged the plan, even handed him the weapon. And the most damning words. She said, when you do this, we're in it together. Once Gavin confessed, the next step was simple. Find the proof. Detectives searched his house top to bottom. They didn't just want a confession. They needed something they could see. And what they found wasn't just disturbing, it was methodical. Inside Gavin's bedroom were notes, written plans, checklists, scenarios labeled Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. Some were scribbled in Gavin's handwriting, but others belonged to Ellie. There were options about how to carry it out, what time, what to use, even where to hide things afterward. And then there were the messages, digital proof that turned speculation into something far more solid. In one message, Ellie told Gavin, "We need to make sure he's gone by the time we leave the house." In another, "You can do it in less than a minute, right?" There it was, not a heat of the moment decision, not an accident, but a planned out action, with roles, steps, and motive. And when detectives looked closer at the tone of the messages, it didn't sound like Gavin was leading. It sounded like Ellie was. Detective Bill Ford later said. She was pushing it all. She wanted to be with Gavin. She wanted to be free from her father's rules. There was no denying it anymore. This wasn't just a plan that spiraled out of control. It was a plan that had been building for weeks. Ellie Friar had stayed quiet for most of the interrogation. She deflected. She denied. She claimed confusion. But eventually, she began to talk. And her version of the truth was very different from Gavin's. She claimed that Russell Jones was the one who hurt her father. She insisted she didn't know what was going to happen that morning, that she had just left the house for a walk, that she was shocked by what she came back to. Detectives weren't convinced, so they showed her the messages, the plans, the notes, and bit by bit, Ellie started to shift. She eventually admitted she'd known something was going to happen, that she'd given Gavin the object used in the attack. "I said, 'I'm ready when you are,'" she told detectives. When asked what she meant by that, she replied, "When you do this, we're in it together." It was the moment that changed everything. Still, Ellie had more to say. She claimed that the plan wasn't about revenge or rebellion. It was about survival. She told detectives that for the past 3 years, her father had mistreated her emotionally, physically, and in ways she said were deeply inappropriate. She said she'd kept it a secret, even from her mom, even from her friends, except for one person, Gavin. According to Ellie, she confided in him just days before the attack. She described situations that were deeply troubling stories that, if true, would explain her desperation. But there was no physical evidence, no prior reports, nothing documented. And when detectives spoke to her sisters, they didn't back the story. In fact, Her younger sister Sierra told them, "My mom and dad were not abusive." Ellie got in trouble because she kept sneaking around with Gavin. So, who was telling the truth? Was Ellie a master manipulator or a scared teenager trying to escape something no one else saw? Even the detectives couldn't agree. As the investigation came to a close, one thing was clear. All three teens were involved. The plans, the notes, the confessions. It was all there. But when it came time to face trial, none of them would ever go before a jury. One by one, they took plea deals. Gavin MacFarlane, now 19, was charged as an adult. He pleaded guilty to ending Aaron Friar's life and to helping plan the act. He was sentenced to 25 years to life. Russell Jones, the 22-year-old friend who helped hide the evidence, pleaded no contest to conspiracy charges. He received 15 years behind bars. And Ellie Friar, just 15 at the time of the crime. She made a choice that would define her future. She pleaded guilty to conspiracy to end her father's life, an adult charge. No trial, no jury, just one moment in court where she quietly said, "I'm sorry for the pain I've caused." The deal? 25 years in prison, with eligibility for parole in 2032 when she'll be 30. Her mother, Maggie Friar, later said, "I don't think Ellie wanted to go to court. I think she was scared. I think she didn't feel she had any other option." And the truth is, she might not have, because her co-defendants Gavin and Russell had agreed to testify against her. And the digital evidence, her text messages, her own words, they would have been impossible to explain away. Her current legal team believes that decision may have cost her more than it should have. Attorney Alyssa Kaplan, who joined Ellie's case years later, says she was 15. They were adults, and yet her sentence was longer than one of theirs. So what was this? Justice or something more complicated? After the courtroom closed and the reporters packed up, Ellie Friar disappeared from the public eye. No more headlines, no more breaking news, just a teenage girl behind bars. At just 15 years old, she began serving a 25-year sentence in a juvenile facility, but she didn't stay idle. Over the years, Ellie started to build something new, something no one expected. She earned not one, but 2 master's degrees while in custody, one in psychology, the other in justice studies. "She's really incredible," said her attorney, Alyssa Kaplan, which, by the way, is not easy to do in prison. In 2026, she'll be transferred to an adult correctional facility. But until then, she's using what time she has left in juvenile custody to work, study, and grow. Yet even now, her case remains a flashpoint. Some see her as a manipulative teen who planned a horrific act. Others see her as a vulnerable girl who fell into the control of older boys and a legal system that never gave her a fair shot. Her legal team believes her sentence was too harsh. They're actively working to get it reduced, calling it excessive for someone her age. But for some, that argument doesn't hold. Because no matter how much Ellie has changed, Aaron Friar is still gone. And the people who loved him, they're the ones left to carry the weight. While the world debated Ellie's sentence, one voice stayed mostly silent: Sierra Friar. She was just 11 years old when her father was taken from her, too young to process the full weight of what had happened, but old enough to remember every detail. Now in her 20s, Sierra has opened up just a little. And when she does, her words hit harder than any courtroom argument ever could. "I've never spoken publicly before about any of this," she said. "It's still like an open wound every day." She still remembers the sound of that morning, the noise in the living room, the silence after, and the heartbreak that followed. I didn't want to believe it. I kept thinking maybe it's a mistake, but it wasn't. Her father was gone, and the person accused of helping plan it, her sister. Sierra has never fully commented on Ellie's role, at least not publicly. When asked about the claims of abuse, she simply said, "I don't want to talk about that. I have my own feelings." She's guarded, careful, still trying to protect what's left of her family. But about her dad, there's no hesitation. He was a kind man. He loved us. He filled my life with joy. And I miss him every day. Today, Sierra is a different person. She's joined the National Guard, something her father always encouraged. She's found strength in moving forward. But make no mistake, she's never forgotten. He goes with me wherever I go, she said. I have faith that one day we'll meet again. Even now, years later, people are still asking the same thing. Who was really behind it all? Was it Ellie Friar, a 15-year-old girl accused of plotting every detail? Or was she just a pawn, pulled into something she couldn't control? Detectives, lawyers, even the public can't agree. Detective Bill Ford is clear on his stance. Ellie was the one pushing it all. Without her, this wouldn't have happened. He points to the messages, the plans, the fact that she handed over the object used in the attack, and that chilling moment when she told Gavin, "When you do this, we're in it together." But Detective Shannon Reynolds, who interviewed Ellie's younger sister, isn't so sure. She believed at first that Ellie was the mastermind. But after reading letters from Gavin written to Ellie from jail, she started to question everything. He was telling her what to say, how to cry, how to sell the story. Reynolds said it sounded more like coaching than support. And maybe, just maybe, Gavin was the one pulling the strings. Even Aliza Kaplan, Ellie's lawyer, doesn't sugarcoat it. Ellie was involved. She participated. She's taken full accountability. But Kaplan also reminds people. She was 15. Gavin was 19. Russell was 22. And yet her sentence is longer than one of theirs. She calls the case an example of how the system sometimes punishes kids more harshly than the adults who influence them. But the detectives, they say responsibility is shared. Without Ellie, this wouldn't have happened. Without Gavin, this wouldn't have happened. And without Russell, it might not have been possible at all. And so the question remains, was Ellie Friar a manipulative mastermind? Or a scared kid caught in the crossfire of love, fear, and poor choices? That question may never have one answer, but it's a question that still haunts everyone who touched this case. There's no easy ending to a story like this, no moment of closure, no final chapter that ties everything up with a neat little bow. Because no matter how you look at it, this is a tragedy. A father lost his life. The daughter lost her freedom, and the family was shattered from the inside out. Aaron Friar isn't here to speak for himself. The allegations made against him, whether true or not, will forever remain tangled in uncertainty. He never got the chance to respond, to defend, to explain. What we do know is this: he loved his daughters. He was proud of them. And to the people who knew him best, he was kind, funny, and deeply committed to his family. Ellie Friar, now 23, has spent nearly a third of her life behind bars. She's educated. She's grown. She's still serving time, but also building a version of herself beyond that one horrific night. Whether she was manipulated or the one doing the manipulating, only she truly knows the full story. Sierra Friar, who heard it all unfold from the next room, carries the weight of both grief and memory. She's moving forward with strength, quiet, determined, and deeply private. She hasn't forgotten, and she never will. It's like waking up every day to the same phone call, she said, like an open wound that never fully heals. This isn't just a story about a crime. It's a story about what happens when love, fear, and desperation collide, about how a family falls apart, and how the truth is sometimes buried deeper than we ever expected. Ellie Friar will be eligible for parole in 2032. She'll be 30 years old. By then, the world will have changed. But the memory of October 2nd, 2017, the night the silence was shattered in Medford, Oregon, will still echo in the lives of everyone who lived it. Thank you for watching Crime Pulse Stories. If this story moved you, disturbed you, or made you think, hit that subscribe button and stay with us as we uncover more cases that deserve to be remembered.